Good evening. Thank you for coming by. My name is Edgar D Elizer. I was born on October the 27th, 1877. I was born to Timothy Dixon Elizer and Cordelia Kaiser Elizer. Sister Mary, Fanny, Marcus Lafayette, Big Brother as we referred to him as. See, our father was an important man in the Civil War. He was a sergeant. He was present when the Confederacy surrendered at the Appomattox Courthouse, ending the war. I grew up on a farm down the road here called Tanglewood. Tanglewood was a lovely place to run around with my family with creeks and streams, hunting and fishing. See, my sister Fanny raised a flock of turkeys one year. We had to drive those turkeys down to the train station. And I say drive, I mean drive them all the way down on foot, down to the Hendersonville train station. From the train station, they went from Hendersonville down to Nashville. And wouldn't you know, it came a blowing rain that night. I couldn't get back across Shackle Island Creek. I had to knock on the door of Mr. Hurt's house. Mr. Hurt was much obliged to have me. Unfortunately, his house was just a little cold and drafty. My britches were frozen solid the next morning, making for a real cold ride back to Tanglewood Farms. Back in those days, this area was a whole lot different. There weren't many houses, and all this was dirt roads in this area. There was a story going around about a mountain lion at that time, and that was around my courting days. Back in those days, I was just a little bit skittish. I used to ride my horse straight up to the house, slap him on his butt, and send him back to the barn. I never saw a mountain lion, and I never lost a horse either. My courting days came to an end at the ripe old age of 22 years old. That's when I married my first wife, Miss Roberta Jane Montgomery. Roberta and I had two small girls. I nicknamed Roberta Bird. She suffered from some terrible illnesses. I took her out to Arizona one time to find a cure, but I never was able. Unfortunately, I lost Bird on January the 2nd, 1906. Back in those days, a man didn't mourn for long. I had the good fortune of marrying another high school sweetheart, Miss Emma Harry. You see, when I met Emma, my life was on fast forward. We wound up with 9 kids total when it was said and done. We had R.B. that's buried back here behind me in the high tombstone, Alan, Charlie, infant Eliza. Our youngest one was Sarah. She died at 5 years of age in her mother's arms after playing in the yard. We don't know what happened to her that day, but we know she left a special place in our hearts for sure. I tell you, my story wouldn't be complete without a little bit of scandal. And the Elizers deliver in the scandal department. You see, Big Brother heard of a scam or get rich or something going on one time out west. He traveled out there. My memory's a little fuzzy, but the deed to Tanglewood wound up in his business venture. Some say he signed my name. I don't know, but I know one thing: we lost it all. They took my farm, Tanglewood. They came and auctioned off my house. I had to sell my sawmill down the road, all our household possessions. They took everything but my family. I started over right down the road on another piece of ground, rebuilding my house. And starting over, I built the kitchen table. I built many things. It wasn't quite Tanglewood, but it was a nice place to raise my family. Basically, we just kept moving. One of my fondest memories was my 50th wedding anniversary. My wife made a big deal out of it. She bought a new dress, she bought me a suit, she bought many things. It was one of the greatest days of my life, having all of our family and friends around. I'll tell you though, going back to Tanglewood and my kids, back in 1910, I built the old beach school down here. Then I built Little Beach. I built the sawmill down the road. I built the mausoleum in Spring Hill. I built many items up and down this road. I also got my old pickup truck stuck back on the farm when I was older. My boys took my keys away from me at an older age, as things weren't going quite so well. But my Emma brought home a television one night, and she brought it in, and I really started watching wrestling. I love that wrestling, and I'm telling you, it was real for sure. I used to haul at that TV set all night long. When you look on my draft card, it says I was a man of medium height and build with blue eyes. Those blue eyes saw a lot of good times and a lot of hard times too. I drew my last breath on January the 21st, 1964, and I found my final resting place here at Beach Church, and I lived a great life here. Thank you very much for stopping by.